Aliens are attacking! However, you're not supposed to know that till about halfway through the movie. Title kinda gives it away though. Just saying. The Blackout, Invasion Earth, which actually in its native country of Russia was only titled The Blackout. More on that in a minute. Is an invasion action thriller about a huge blackout that happens one night that covers the world with the exception of parts of Russia and some of the surrounding countries. With the exception of this circle of life around a part of Russia, no other contact has been made or can be made with any other parts of the world. And anybody who goes out of this circle of life doesn't come back. We follow a military group that's part of a larger recon force that's going to spread out into the quarantine zone to see if they can make any sense to this really weird situation. They get out there and find a bit more than they were expecting, and it becomes a fight for survival as they search for the truth behind the blackout. This movie actually originally came out in 2019 in its home country of Russia, and it's just now recently been released here in the US. While I'm not going to give anything away about the story of this movie, I will say that it's pretty obvious that there are aliens in this movie. Or it's pretty obvious with this release that there are aliens in this movie. The original title of the movie in Russia was just The Blackout. However, here we get the subtitle of Invasion Earth, which I don't really get. Why not just leave it with The Blackout? Because while the movie does center around an invasion, you, the viewer, don't know that as far as the story is concerned until about halfway through the movie. Unfortunately, I knew that before I even put the movie in because now it's in the subtitle. It kind of ruined the whole mystique of the whole thing because the movie does do a good job of keeping it a secret as to what's really going on. You know, obviously something's going on, but you don't really know if it's like a zombie apocalypse kind of thing or an alien invasion or what. So by having that subtitle there and me already knowing going into the movie what was going on, it kind of took away from the movie a bit. The whole time that the movie story was bobbing and weaving and just moving about and trying to avoid what was actually going on, instead of building that tension and wonder and making me just sit there and think, what could this possibly be? I already knew, so I was just pretty much like, all right, get on with it. However, I do have to wonder that even if I didn't know what it was that was actually going on, I may have, to a degree at least, still been feeling that way. Because this movie is long. And I don't necessarily mean in runtime, because it's about 2 hours, and that's about average length of a movie nowadays. But it feels so much longer than that. And it's really odd, because there are parts of this movie I really enjoyed and was having a really good time with and that were very exciting. But on the flip side of that, there's parts of this movie that are just really slow and drawn out. In looking into the background of the movie, though, I think that might be because the movie was initially conceived and written as a TV series. Of course, a TV series script is going to have a whole lot more content in it, which is great for TV, but when you take those scripts and try and condense them into one, and you don't cut out enough of the stuff from the TV series, the movie just seems like it drags on and on. And that's exactly what happens here. Unlike some movies, it's not like a certain part that they should have cut out. It's throughout the movie, just different parts throughout. They should have made a whole bunch of different edits. They could have probably cut out a good 15 to 25 minutes of this movie and it would have benefited it immensely. Not in one spot. They could have just gone throughout and just shaved a little bit here or there out of different places and it would have made it so much more enjoyable. So the movie is pretty long in the tooth. However, it is still a very interesting premise and the execution a lot of the times is really good. The story and what's actually going on, while yes, it does involve aliens, no surprise there, the way that it's handled is in a pretty unique and interesting way. I can't say that it's 100% original or anything. I mean, I've heard or seen things similar to it before, but it's not something you see or hear very often. And I thought that they handled that part of the movie very well. The action scenes as well are very well done. Whenever the action gets cranked up in this movie, it is extremely exciting and very entertaining to watch. And these aren't like little skirmishes. Some of these are like huge, big, grand battles, and they're pretty fucking cool. To go along with that, the overall production values here are extremely high. The special effects especially look really damn good. And there's a whole lot of them. This is a very special effects heavy movie, and they all look top tier. When it comes to the performances, as far as I can tell, they all seem pretty good. Nothing fantastic, but solid enough and they get the job done. However, I will say that when watching a movie that's dubbed, it is a bit harder to gauge a performance. But as far as I was concerned, everything looked fine to me. What wasn't fine though was the characters. All the characters seem kind of one note. They all have one thing to do and that's what they do. There's not much depth to these characters. There is a few attempts to give a couple of the characters background and depth. However, for the most part, it pretty much falls flat. I don't know if this is because of it being written as a TV show and probably having a lot more time to develop these characters, and then when they condensed it down to a movie, we lost a lot of that, or if either way, these characters would have just been pretty one note. I do get the feeling while watching the movie that at some point in time in the scripting process, these characters did have more development. But when it was condensed down to this movie, we just lost a lot of that. Which is unfortunate because there are a lot of other little things throughout the movie they could have cut out and lost and kept that character development, and it would have made the movie better for it. As it stands, the characters are just all kind of vanilla. You don't really sympathize with them much beyond the fact that they're human and you're human and bad things are happening to humans. You don't really know them on an emotional level at all, so when bad things happen, it just all kind of falls flat. Typically in an action movie, I would not necessarily put this much emphasis on character building if the action made up for it. You can have dumb fun action with dumb fun characters, but the movie doesn't position itself that way. It doesn't come off as just an action fest and all that other stuff doesn't matter as much. It wants you to care about the people in this world on an emotional level. And while it does have some really great action scenes, the vast majority of the movie is character moments. Unfortunately, like I said, you just don't really care about these characters, so in turn, you really don't care about these character moments. There's also this weird thing that some Russian movies do where there's this awkward enforced romantic relationship. And it just kind of comes out of nowhere. It's not like it built over the course of the film or anything. Yes, there is a bit of background with these two characters, but it's never enough. It just seems extremely sudden and forced. I've seen a lot of that in the Russian films I've watched, and I don't know if it's like a cultural thing or what, but I have definitely noticed it. And having a romantic subplot in your movie, even when it's not very well developed, doesn't really bother me that much. But with this one, it adds absolutely nothing to the overall experience. There's no reason for it being there. It has no relevance whatsoever. It's just fucking weird. Also, the end of the movie. While I wasn't unhappy with it or anything, it does kind of seem like it might be setting up a sequel, which if so, I gotta wonder, what's that gonna be about? What's going on? What's gonna happen? Are more coming? And how's that gonna work out with what happens in the end of the movie? After looking it up, apparently, yes, they are working on a sequel, so I guess we'll find out. The Blackout was a movie that I really wanted to like. It has some fantastic production values. From a technical standpoint, this movie's a winner, but it's let down greatly by the execution of its story. The story itself is actually pretty interesting, but the way that they executed that story is just kind of a drag. That, coupled with the vanilla characters that you really just don't give a shit about, really detracts from the overall experience. And while I'd say it's worth watching for the interesting story and really exciting action scenes, at best, it's only worth checking out on streaming.
Across the street.
This movie had a lot of pluses, and I can see the good movie inside of this movie, but it really just seems like I'm watching the extended cut of the movie. Like it's got a whole bunch of extra shit in it that they added in for the fans that's not in the original movie. But nope, that's not what this is. This is the original movie, they just didn't cut enough out. So there it is, guys, my review of The Blackout, Invasion Earth. Why the hell did they add that subtitle? If you enjoyed and want more content like this, hit that subscribe button and help my little channel grow. If you liked what I had to say, give me a like. If not, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, stay sexy, Moscow.
The war has begun.
The whole sudden romance thing I mentioned, I've seen in a lot of Russian films lately. And if it is a cultural thing, I guess it means that these guys are like high school students that just fall in love at the drop of a hat. I mean, one minute it's like they don't know who the fuck you are, and the next minute you meet and they're like, I pledge my undenying love to you, comrade. I mean, really, it's kind of sudden. I wonder what the divorce rate is there.